6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We may pause for just a second. I think Jen was trying to get something straightened out. We had a small difficulty here with one of the fobs not working, so then the doors were staying locked out front. So at any rate, we'll just give her a chance to get back into the room if possible.
Hello.
While we're waiting, not a bad time to see if people have any additions or deletions they want to make to the agenda. Hearing none, I'll go forward with a vote. Anybody who wants to motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move the agenda as presented.
Okay, we got a move and a second. Everyone, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? So we'll start there. Erin?
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce John?
Sure, I'd love to introduce our new commissioner.
Erin sounds like
John.
she might be out just outside the room here, so.
Our new
Go ahead.
commissioner is John Halverson, who is an illustrious former mayor of the city of Lacey. But I'm sure he can tell you more about his background and why he joined the historical commission.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I came to the city in 1975 after being out of the military. I was at Fort Lewis, I'm sorry, at McCord Air Force Base, now JBLM. So I've been in the city that long and wasn't here more than a couple of years, and Mayor Karen Frazier appointed me to a citizen advisory committee. And that ruined the entire community for years because I just went from one appointment of commissions to another and represented the city for 23 years before I was asked to apply for a vacancy on the city council. I was appointed in 1991 to serve out an unexpired term. And then I was elected twice. So I served all of the 90s from 91 to 99. And for a brief moment, 93 to 96, I was the mayor. So been involved in a lot of things, and including seeing the acquisition of tonight's building we're going to talk about. And I spent 27 and a half years with DSHS, I'm a social work administrator, many different jobs there. And of course, served on the council. And then I've been on 25 different nonprofit boards and commissions. So my main reason is it's time to get the Lacey Museum built and operational. That's my mission. That's why I joined up. Come to find out, we have a lot of bake sales to do because we need to raise something like 13 million. But undaunted, we're going to charge forward. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, John. With that, do we have any announcements?
I do not. Do you have anything, Erin?
No, I do not. That's fine.
No, I don't.
Okay, so let's move along to the minutes. Any corrections or first of all, let's see if there's any corrections people want to suggest to the minutes. Give you a moment to take a look at those. Hearing none so far, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I would so move.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion or any suggestions for corrections that we've not gotten? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I have to abstain. I wasn't present.
So noted. And with that, we'll move on down to correspondence.
I haven't received any correspondence emailed via email and nothing through the website.
Okay. Calendar of events.
I would just like to share that we are having tabletop activities at the museum this month and next month, actually all through the summer. Felicia's got crafts going on. This month is weather vanes. Next month is biplanes. It's looking super fun. I'm gonna go make some myself. So kids or adults are totally welcome. So come on down.
And how long is that gonna go, Aaron?
So the weather vanes are through June, and then the biplanes are July, and then I think it's wagons in August.
Okay. I only ask because my grandsons are away right now, and so when they get back mid to late July, I was gonna advise them to get over there.
We're partnering with the Lacey Maker Space to make our wagons.
Okay. Any other calendar events that we know about at this point? If not, let's move down to old business and the new museum project.
Yeah, thank you. So for the new museum project, what we'd like to do is put together a funding committee. So this wouldn't be an ad hoc committee of the Historical Commission, but it will be a stakeholder committee that can get together. I think that it should start as bi-monthly to start out with, and then meetings can be scheduled as needed and as, funding opportunities come in. But it's a chance for everyone to get in the same room, all the stakeholders, and really work on the funding plan for the new museum project. So myself and Erin Quindalsho will be definitely on the committee. We will be pulling in the assistant city manager, Shannon Kelly Fong, as she's available. She's pretty in tune with some of the federal funding opportunities that come across her desk, and she also is the liaison for our legislative contacts on the national level and the state level. And then just looking for feedback from your perspectives as commissioners on who else could be at the table for that funding strategy. So if you have ideas, just let me know. It can be either tonight or, just email me.
So you're looking for ideas that either possible funding leads, or are you looking for people who might serve, or what? In particular?
I'm looking for funding leads, like grant opportunities and legislative ask opportunities. We obviously, as the Lacey Community Foundation is also getting up and running, so there'll be a representative from them. Potentially the Park Foundation of Thurston County would send someone too. We just need to get everybody in the same room and start, we've been talking about it's going to take a village, particularly in the state and federal funding bucket. And so we just want to, make sure that we're continually having discussions on strategy and trying to get to Commissioner Halverson's point earlier, get those funds all put together for the museum project. Just keep the momentum going.
So are you looking for a representative from the Lacey Historical Society?
Yeah, I think the Historical Society would be also a stakeholder. Yep, absolutely.
So let me know and I'll bring it to their board and we'll find someone.
Okay.
Other than me.
We made any outreach to Thurston County Historical Commission in that regard? I'm asking as a liaison, would you like me to bring it up?
We haven't done any type of direct ask, I think just because their opportunities have been on the smaller scale.
Sure.
And at this point, we're probably looking for the bigger funding opportunities.
Okay, no, I was just more wondering whether they might, have leads or that kind of thing. They're familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay.
And if there is someone from this historical commission that wants to help out, we could have one of the commissioners as well, so. Think about it.
So they're gonna meet every other month.
People do bi-monthly to start out. We can schedule more as needed. And so yeah, I will put that together and make sure everybody has the information. And we'll schedule a first meeting.
Are we close to getting a manager yet? A city manager?
Oh, great question. So there is a lead person that the city council is pursuing. It's the interim city manager. So they're working on negotiations of a contract. Rick Walk is his name. So he was the community and economic development director. And he's been serving in the interim role, and council decided to move forward with him as the.
We may have some ideas of where we're going, is the reason I'm thinking
Yeah.
about that.
Absolutely. Yes, he will be definitely involved in discussions. He probably won't be able to make it to these meetings. But that's where our assistant
but
city
it-
manager can come in, because she works on, like I said, she's the legislative liaison for the city. And so she'll have a lot of good ideas as well. So that's really all I had on the new museum project, probably the most important thing about the new museum project. Well, actually, I have one more. We got the no further action from the Department of Ecology. Yay, I see Kim with the thumbs up there, or excuse me, Commissioner Getz. So that is due to the soil remediation that we had to do at the new museum site. As you all know, it was a former industrial site. And so there was a ribbon of soil contamination, and we've been working with Ecology over the past several years to get that taken care of. And the last Heritage Capital Projects grant through the Washington State Historical Society covered the work at the site to be able to take care of that. So that is great news. We've just been waiting for that.
So it's a certification of it's okay to continue.
Mhm. Yep, no further action, no further remedial action is required by the Department of Ecology at the site. Yay! Something we've been working on for quite some time, so. And that's all I have about the new museum project.
That's good. It's one of the great challenges in dealing with old industrial sites.
They're never over.
Quite a bit. Any questions from anybody? Hearing none, we'll move down to the Lacey Depot and Food Truck Plaza.
Yeah, so things are in full swing over there for the summer season. There are food trucks available for lunch and dinner time over there. There's been quite a lot of activity going on. We did get some new, more sturdy picnic tables for the outdoor seating, so that was very nice for the site. There is a business that we're contracting with that is helping to promote local businesses. They're called Love Local, and they've been putting on the first Friday market events at the depot and the fourth Sunday. So those have been going really well. It's super fun. They have themes every time. So the one coming up, the fourth Sunday of June is June 25th, and it's a pet theme. So there's a lot of like pet oriented activities. And then the next first Friday event is July 7th. So that's a contract that the Community and Economic Development Department has in running those events. And then we also have one of our city parks events that's going to take place. It's our Play in the Park series, which kind of moves around to different locations. And that's August 10th at 2 p.m. There'll be a musician out there with some family type entertainment happening. So things are going well. We are still working on, there's going to be a kiosk that's going to be installed this summer, and it's going to have a sign with information about the new museum project. And so Erin, I know, is currently working on that with our public affairs department. They're designing it. And so we will be showing you that before we actually get it printed and put out there. So we're excited about that. That's really all I had on that.
Any questions before we move forward? I don't see or hear any, so let's move on to the oral history project.
Thank you. So Felicia and I have been considering how to address what we see as significant gaps and missing perspectives in the stories that we present at the museum and in our collections. For the most part, our stories that have been told have been pretty white oriented and heteronormative. And so she proposed the idea of conducting an oral history project where we would build relationships with marginalized and or underrepresented communities and invite people to share their stories with us in a recorded format of their choosing. So we included in your packets a staff report draft that we wrote for the Commission on Equity, which outlines the project. And we're going to be taking the project to the Commission on Equity next week to get their input on it. And Felicia has written a diversity and local history grant, which is the same one that we did last year for the Jackson marker to fund an intern to help her out with this project. And I thought that I would show you, Felicia did her thesis, her master's thesis project as an oral history project in the Cambodian community. And there's a little trailer that she put together for that project. I thought I'd just show that to you to give you an idea of where we're headed, what we're thinking. Okay. Can you hear it?
Yes, it's down pretty low.
My name is Susatina Chung.
My name is Prince Singwon.
My name is Satiri Chi.
My name is Kiwi Sok.
So coming out of refugee camp, I can't really expect my parents to understand what a average high school life American kid is.
Be my parents' translator, and I wouldn't know how to explain certain things in class. I'd have to say in English.
Just feel that it's an instant connection to my ancestors and their struggles and their resilience. And automatically through that space, I really feel grounded in that I am Khmer.
I want to see that the younger generation learn their language, understand their culture, know where their roots come from, know their history.
I just want to give our message to our Khmer community that to be united, to be strong. Comparing to our chopstick, right? Chopstick, you can just stand alone, you can break it, but if you bundle them together, very difficult to break. So we need to come together like that. As a community, we need to come together like a bundle of chopsticks so that nobody can break us.
Right. So with that, assuming that you guys, read what was in your packets, if anybody has any feedback or ideas for communities that we could get in touch with to help collect some of these stories, I'm open for it.
Aaron, if I could just go ahead and toss out, I'm a member of the Sacred Heart Catholic parish. And I know that we have a Spanish Mass, a Korean Mass, a strong Filipino community, and a pretty strong Samoan and Chamorro community. And so those might all be worthwhile tapping points. I'm sure there's other churches and other organized groups that do, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately when I think about that parish and some of the groups that we see it within it that are pretty active.
Okay, thank you.
And if you need some intro or she needs some intro, I'm pretty close. I know the pastor and some other people their pastor, the administrator, some other folks, so.
Cool. Thank you.
What was it exactly that you needed? Certain people, different people from different backgrounds?
Well, we're building, the first thing that we'll be doing is building a list of communities in the area that we would like to build relationship with. Both ones that we already have some with, like the Black community, and others that maybe we don't. And then from there, we'll be, talking to people and building those relationships and those connections. And then a later step will be seeking out individuals who might be willing to share their stories in a recorded format.
Oh, okay. Because we do have a Polynesian Association of Thurston County that I'm part of also as a committee member.
Okay.
And we are the ones that, coordinate and run that Lacey Polyfest that'll be going on this Saturday.
Great. I will add it to our list.
Thank you.
Oh, you had something to say.
Well, just if you haven't already, you might contact Interfaith Works. Once upon a time, there used to be Association of Ministries, and they included lots of churches that were of different ethnic and cultural groups. And
I think they're still active.
okay, I don't know. I always get nervous because I haven't been as
Up
active.
until 5 years ago, I know I was.
Yeah,
associated
and
with
so
such-
they'll know Eastern Orthodox and, all kinds of folks in our area.
Right.
And then, of course, if you haven't already, you should be including the tribes, the Squallies in particular.
Yeah, they're definitely on the list.
But you might contact Interfaith Works
Okay.
and there's still, usually they had a board of directors from a large number of churches in the community. And so that would give you context to several congregations or groups.
Nice.
Interface is still in effect. I worked also with them during COVID, so there's still a working group.
Great.
Any other comments or suggestions?
I was just gonna add in that we're excited also about this project, just to build relationships and really just as a Parks, Culture and Recreation Department as a whole, just meeting people where they are and getting feedback for programs and services. So not just the important oral history being correct, but also just that in ongoing engagement.
The cultural celebration I went to was just fantastic. That you put on, it was great. There may be somebody in those contexts too that
Mhm.
would know folks that would be great to be interviewed.
That's true.
Yeah, and we can interface with us, our event supervisor who has all those contacts.
Yeah, I put that on Felicia's radar. I think she's planning to have a booth there to reach out to people through that.
Perfect.
She would be Felicia?
Yeah, Felicia is our museum coordinator.
Yeah, you knew it.
Yep.
Okay, you want to move on to the Jacob Smith House Design Review?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, as you are aware from your packet materials, we have a proposal for the Jacob Smith House to have a new roof installed. And before we get into the actual proposal, I'm going to do a brief review of the Jacob Smith House history and significance, and then I'll walk you through the current proposal and the staff recommendation. I would
Through another,
here.
excuse me.
Oh,
Did
go
we
ahead.
go through another house review, the other house last,
are you
last
think-
month
are
or
you-
2 months ago.
Are you thinking about the McKinney House?
Yeah,
Yep, we did have an overview of that.
and what did we do with that?
Yeah, so that one, we are putting in a budget request to do a deep dive on what would actually be possible over at that site, because we think that the site has some limitations.
Okay, so
Right.
that's what we finally ended up doing.
That's for now, yep, but the historical commission did add that to their work plan as an ongoing project, so.
We talked about at some point, and I don't know, we'll have to talk about what a good time is. If it made sense, perhaps doing a walk by as
Yes.
commission.
Right, yep. Okay, but this is, the Jacob Smith House is located over right next to the Lacey Corporate Center. Just to
It's
kind of
right
help,
down over the Lowe's parking lot.
help get your bearings on where it is, yeah.
Stop getting ahead of me.
Sorry, oh, okay, she's gonna tell you. She's got it right here. Thanks, Jen.
All right, let's dive into the Jacob Smith House and its history. Here are a couple of modern pictures of the Jacob Smith House, looking very pretty up on its hill there. This will give you a visual to kind of keep in your mind as we start to look back at historical images. And in case you don't know where it is, here's a map. College Street is off to the right there, and along the bottom of this map is Yelm Highway. So the Lowe's, the corporate center there, it's behind that up on the hill. So
I have an absolutely commanding view of that area.
yes, true. So the original owners of the house and the property were Jacob Smith and his wife Priscilla Friendly Smith, who were married in 1837, and they came to the Northwest along the Oregon Trail from Indiana in about 1851. They first settled on Whidbey Island. They had 4 children in Indiana and another 4 in Washington Territory. And in 1858, they purchased the 640 acres of the Phillips donation land claim, which on the map here is indicated with the square black outline. That's how much property they owned when they came here. And the house was built in 1859. So the people pictured in these images here are not Jacob and Priscilla because we don't have pictures of them. I don't know of any that exist. But these are 2 of their 8 children, the oldest and the youngest. Cordelia is the oldest and Albion was the youngest. And a fun fact, Cordelia is the grandmother of Bing Crosby. And if you don't know who that is, Google it because I don't want to feel that old today. So the Jacob Smith House is the oldest structure in Lacey and one of the oldest in Thurston County. And the size of the home was pretty large for this era. And it was built from large cedar slabs. And it's in the Greek Revival style. Newspaper accounts from the mid-1890s reported that the Smith residence was noted for its hospitality and good cheer and served as the scene of many social gatherings in the community. And this photo is from the 1890s and is the earliest one we have of the property. The Smiths were farmers and they primarily grew wheat crops and raised pigs. Jacob died in 1879 and Priscilla in 1894. Priscilla lived in the family home until her death, and the property passed on to the youngest son, Albion, who we saw in the previous slide, and he continued to farm the property. He married late, and so they didn't have any children. And so when he died in 1948, his widow stayed on there until it was sold out of the family in 1955. So it was in the family for almost a century. So this photograph was taken in the 1940s. We don't know exactly when the porch was added, but obviously it was sometime between 1890s and the 1940s. So in 1955, the house was purchased by Robert Wolub, who was son of famous Washington architect Joseph Wolub, who built a lot of structures in the state, including several up on the Capitol campus. This property stayed with the Wolobs until 1985, when the property was purchased by developer Mike Mastro, who was planning the Lacey Corporate Center. So he was proposing that business park that's there now with Lowe's and everything. And when the Lacey Corporate Center plans were approved by the city in 1987, there was a stipulation in the plat that the house would be rehabilitated and preserved, that it couldn't just be torn down. So in 1988, the city applied to have the house placed on the National Register of Historic Places. And that was with the owner's consent, because of course the city didn't own the property yet. Although the application did not meet the very strict requirements of the National Register, it was placed on the Washington Heritage Register, and so it is on the state register. However, it was not at the time put on the local register, and it's unclear why they didn't do that, although it seemed like there was just a lot going on with that. So yeah, so I'm not sure why it didn't happen then. So by 1996, a decade later, the house was in a significant decline, as you can see by these pictures. While the business park was under construction in 1989, it didn't even have a fence around it. So vandals did significant damage to the house, stripping its moldings and woodwork. And in 1994, a fire and additional vandalism finally caused a public outcry, and at the city's request, a security fence was installed in August 1994. Here's some pictures of the inside. So the city usually requires that a developer take out a bond for 150% of the improvements to guarantee completion of the project, and then also to be sure that they uphold any other obligations. But the city decided to waive the requirement in this case because the amount of money that was going to be needed to cover that bond was going to be really exorbitant. But what this meant was that the city had no leverage to force the developer Mastro to meet his obligation regarding the Jacob Smith house. So you can see that it led to terrible damage to this historic house. So the city, oh, I went one too many fast. The city filed a lawsuit in January of 1995 at the encouragement of the Historical Commission. But the two parties were able to come to an agreement in March before legal action was taken. And so the developer Mastro placed a $150,000 bond to ensure that he would keep his promise to restore the house. And in the end, to fulfill his obligation, he ended up selling the house to another couple who, for the price of his bond, who were going to rehabilitate it and turn it into a rental property. And they agreed to meet that obligation that Mastro had. So they're the ones who rehabilitated the house. Oops. And here is a picture during renovation. So you can see that it was fairly gutted and there was no roof for a while. And then finally, this is what the house looked like after renovation. And the owners ran it as a rental facility until 2002, when the city purchased it to ensure that it was going to remain in good condition into the future. All right, so what makes the Jacob Smith house significant? We already talked about it being the oldest structure to be known to be standing in the Lacey area. From the the National Register nomination from 1987. These are the things that were stated on that form. It's a significant example of the vernacular domestic architecture built by pioneer settlers in the region. And it's one of the few still standing examples in the county of a side gabled cottage reflecting the Greek Revival idiom. Basically, it's unique and it's old, and it's one of the few like it. And at the time, it retained good exterior integrity of form, fabric, and setting, and clearly conveys the character of pioneer of the era. So this leads me to, while I was researching information for this presentation, I wanted to nail down the exact date and document when the property was added to the Lacey Register. But my records suggested that the property was put on the local register in 1998, although I had one other reference that said it was put on the register in 1994. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here. So I looked through all of the historical commission minutes. I looked through all of the city council minutes, and I can't find where it was ever put on the local register. I'm still trying to figure out what actually happened, but it just seems like all of a sudden people decided it had been on the register, but in order for it to be on the register, it has to have been approved by city council. And unless I'm missing minutes, which I don't think I am, it's not there. This presentation was going to take you through the design review process for a property that is on the register. But with this new information, it's not really appropriate to do that exactly. So as previously mentioned, the property is on the state register, but that is an honorary nomination and doesn't have a review process that's attached to it. So that's not required as part of that. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to take you through the proposal and my recommendation, and then ask you as the commission to make your recommendation to the city. But unlike the design review process, it won't be tied to the permitting process. But the city, certainly takes the recommendation of the commission seriously. And we'll have time for discussion at the end. So I'm going to move right into the proposal. So this is a close-up of the current roof that is on the Jacob Smith house. It is a cedar shake roof. It was installed in 1997 during that renovation. The lifespan of a cedar shake roof is about 15 to 20 years, and it's going on more than 25 now. So I think that's a big testament to the awesomeness of our maintenance staff for keeping it going for so long. But its time has come, and we need to replace it in order to ensure that the house continues to stay in good condition. So hopefully you have reviewed the packet materials and reviewed the proposal from our maintenance staff. Their proposal is to replace the cedar shingles with a polymer product of shingles that mimics the look of cedar shake. The photo here on the slide is of a house, a historic house that has this type of shingle on it with the product installed. And I've listed on the slide the pros and cons to this material. This material requires no maintenance at all. So it's very good protector of the building envelope. and against leaks. It's also fire retardant, so the likelihood of a fire is much reduced, and it's much less likely to fade than wood. And it has a lifetime warranty. So as long as we own the building, with some exceptions, of course, because it's a business, it has a warranty for a long time. And then the con, of course, is that it is not what the original material is. So the original roof was wood and probably cedar, although we can't know for sure. At some point, the roof was replaced with composite material by 1988. And like I mentioned before, the renovation used a cedar shake. So this is what I consider when I am making my recommendation. So the standards that we use are the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And those say that deteriorated historic features are to be repaired rather than replaced. That works for things like siding, but for roofs, at a certain point, they just have to be replaced, particularly a wood roof. And then it goes on to say that where deterioration requires that something be replaced, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Another consideration is the availability of materials. Cedar is experiencing, and lumber in general is experiencing, serious supply chain challenges, which is impacting the cost and the availability. We also have to consider the use of public resources. So cedar costs about a third higher than this type of material and requires ongoing maintenance costs and takes more time, which is also a cost, which is much higher than cedar. The environmental issues, there are some pros and cons to both materials. You can get materials like this in recycled materials, but it's still a plastic product. Wood is, made of trees that are replaceable. I did also contact the State Historic Preservation Office because I'm not a historic preservation professional. So I like to get opinions of people who are. And so we talked it through, and this was when I told her that it was on the register, because that is what I thought at the time. And she said that it is totally appropriate to use this type of a substitute material for the wood because of all these reasons. And in fact, the National Park Service, who is the national authority on historic preservation, they have even made this decision on some of their historic buildings to use this material in certain cases. So therefore, my recommendation is to replace the cedar shake roof with a substitute material that replicates the look and the profile of the original shingles. And so it'll be tough to match the color of the original, but we can try to, match the color of the way the roof looks now, which is what a weathered cedar shake roof looks like in our climate. So I think if we do that, we'll be able to get a look that is very similar to what it looked like before. That's my presentation, and now I'll turn it over to Jim for discussion.
So Aaron, just for clarification, it sounds like there's really two potential things for us to discuss and vote on. One is about the roofing material itself. And the second is, I guess, and that's why I want to ask, is the second the question of, do we want to make a nomination of this, of the Jacob Smith House to be on the historic register?
I
Motion?
mean, yes, I think from my standpoint, it's pretty clear that we do. And I was already planning to put in a budget request for a contractor to do that because we only had the national nomination and that was done before the house was renovated. And so it was really hard to do design reviews based off of that nomination. So the state had already told us they felt like we should redo it, but now I think we have to.
Okay, so we really have two items to vote on here this evening, it sounds like.
Well, the nomination piece, I guess the commission could vote on that tonight, or it could be a future agenda item.
Well, and the commission probably wouldn't, it doesn't need to be a vote to pursue it, I don't think. I think it would be a vote when it's done and we're proposing it.
Okay, okay, so that would be in the future after the roofing was taken care of.
Yeah.
Trying to hit the good weather months for the
Well,
roofing.
I get that.
Yep, and then as far as approving the roof, that we really, there doesn't need to be a motion after all, since the house is not on the local register. So technically,
Well, I think they could have a motion to provide their recommendation to the city, just
doesn't hurt.
as what they think.
How much do you rent it for?
Oh, that's a great question that I don't have right off the top of my head, but I can pull up the website. We can pull
I
it.
just wonder how much income
Yeah.
they get off of it.
Well, it's right around $40,000 a year revenue, and that fluctuates based on, I mean,
So you could put a roof up with a 40,000 probably.
yeah, so
I thought so.
there have been monies, right, requested for the roof replacement, and they already have been approved.
Oh,
So,
well,
so yeah,
there's no problem. We got the money
we can
too.
move forward. Yeah, we have approval
So
on
we
that.
could put Cedar up there for 1/3 higher than the other.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just 1/3 more for the, and I don't know what the more is, but can't be that much more. I don't know what that would go, do you know, Vinay? I don't know.
Well, that's not what I'm recommending because the maintenance costs are really high.
I know, but it's so much different to put plastic up there rather than a cedar, and a third of the, I don't know what the third amount is. You say it's a third more?
Mhm.
How much more?
Well, the budget request is for $60,000 for the roof.
60,000 for just the roof?
Yeah.
60,000 for the roof?
Mhm. That's the estimate that we got.
I think we should look around a little bit. I'd like to set this over for a week or for a month, so you could get some prices on it. That's a lot of money for that.
Well, that's the budget request, and then what the maintenance staff would do is then they would go out for bid. And then they would look at the pricing. So
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that it will actually end up being 60,000. That's just
but somebody could give us a pretty good estimate on this
that's the allocation.
as to what that is, and there's a 1/3 difference. For me, if you put an extra 5,000 there to put a cedar roof on it, it'd be worth it to me. But I don't know how they feel, and I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I think I don't know that much about it, and I'm just guessing. But I think we got, that'd be nicer with a roof on. And I thought we paid pretty good money for that when we paid, I rented it in 99. They were doing rent, so they've been renting that baby since 99 with that roof on it.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
it wasn't done in 99. They said it was done in 97, but it wasn't done in 99, so it probably wasn't done in 97. So,
So if the budget request is 60,000, then if you want to do Cedar, then that means the budget request needs to go up to 80,000 to
what?
cover the additional cost.
What?
To
Just
cover
like
the
cover
additional 1/3 of the cost. That's an extra $20,000.
Well, who said it was a third?
What?
Who said it was a third?
That's the estimate that we were just discussing,
What
was
was the
that.
estimate?
doing
That wasn't your estimate, was
No,
it?
no. Time
Who
out.
made the estimate?
Time out. Hey, time out. So what we heard earlier from Aaron's briefing was that Cedar is going to cost roughly 1/3 more than doing the composite. Okay, great. That means that if we're putting in a budget request for 60,000, whether we spend the whole 60 or not is irrelevant. I'm not saying that's the bid. What I'm saying is if we put in a budget request for 60,000, then if we're going to go into this with the intent that it be Cedar, then to keep all the little ducks in a row, that means you need to increase that 60 by 1/3, which means it needs to go up to 80. Now, that's not to say that it would cost 80, that we would spend 80, but it changes the budget request to make sure everything is consistent.
Who gave you the 60,000 figure?
So Aaron, that came from, yeah, Aaron provided the information,
Oh.
probably from our facilities maintenance.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, defer
Facility
to
Maintenance department
facilities guys.
for the city.
Right. These are the guys, I mean, that's what they do for a living, and they're responsible for all the
Could we
city's
turn-
buildings.
could
So
we,
I'm,
set this over for a month until we have the next meeting and maybe talk about that? I don't believe that it's gonna be $60,000. And I don't believe it's gonna be 30, and I'm no expert, but I should talk to somebody that would know.
Well, they need to get this done before the summer is over. So we do need to make a decision on materials tonight. And as we've been saying, there's no guarantee that it's going to cost $60,000. They're going to go out to a bid process and it will be the lowest bid based on the material that we choose. So
I'm sure that we probably know the people that are gonna bid yet, or don't we know?
No,
not necessarily.
Okay. I still would like to have
I
the,
think Commissioner has some.
Possibly,
Yeah.
decently, I'd like to have to give him a chance to talk.
yeah.
I first want to clarify, anything we recommend is a recommendation to the city council. Am I
Sure.
correct on
Correct.
that?
Well,
We don't have authority to
Not-
act on our own.
not necessarily. So the recommendation is going to be to go ahead, if the motion is to move forward, it doesn't go to city council. There's already a budget request that's been approved. It would just be the go ahead for the work to
That's why,
go ahead and
that's
take
why I
place.
asked the question.
Yep, it's a good question. Yep, thank you for
So-
clarifying.
Second point
And-
is
Yeah.
generally, in my opinion, the advisory commission do not take on the task of getting the cheapest bid. That's a city function. And usually by people who do it for a living for us, so someone inside the department.
That's
So
correct.
therefore, I'm going to move that we accept the staff recommendations and recommend to whomever we need to recommend that we do the Palomar shingle proposal. And that's my motion.
second,
Time for discussion.
Okay, I have a couple of concerns. One of them is that I would really like to see a physical sample of this proposed roofing, just to make sure that it is similar to the Cedar. And the other issue is, has anybody done any engineering review of the existing Smith structure to make sure it can take a composite roof system? Because Cedar is substantially lighter than most roofing systems.
I don't know the answer to that. I trust maintenance to do a good job with the care of their buildings.
I concur with that too.
Jim?
John?
Well, I'd just like to have the question answered. Did they have an architect or an engineer approve the additional weight load to the building?
I don't know the answer to that.
It'll have to be done through permit as well, so Wade will ask the same question someplace down the line.
Jim?
Go ahead.
I think it would be useful if the person that gave you that estimate, the person in charge of making this happen, could somehow make a presentation to us by video or something, because there's a lot of us that have questions. I also think 60,000 is outrageous, but I understand what you're saying is you've got a budget line item there that's big enough to handle whatever is coming down the line. And it may be a $20,000 bid that wins. Okay? It may be a 10,000. I put 2 roofs on for 17,000 last year. So to tell me that it's a $60,000 roof, I understand why Ed's upset. So what we need is someone who can speak to it, answer the questions that Alan has and so forth, and give us a little more detail. Maybe that's a Zoom meeting, I don't know, but we aren't comfortable, I sense, for a vote. So my motion is trying to move it along, but I don't know if we're gonna have enough to win the vote. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, John. Any other comments?
Yeah, just one additional consideration to all of this is for me is fire safety. Quite frankly, you know, wood roofs, even cedar roofs are not, I don't think, sufficiently fire protective in the upcoming, as the climate continues to change and fire continues to become a greater and greater threat. The last thing we should be doing is putting a wood roof on any building, quite frankly.
Kevin, it looked like your mic almost turned on. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Just kind of echo with what Kimberly was saying. I mean, if we're going to be putting on a new roof that isn't traditional, following, you know, what was there already, then yeah, looking at some of that, you know, can we get some kind of an improvement out of that, whether that be fire safety or some other thing? It'd be good to understand that.
So it sounds like we have a lot of questions. Is there a way, Aaron, do you have any sense of how fast they need to get moving?
Well, I know they were hoping to do this summer.
Right. And so
Or late fall, early fall. So
how long is the process for doing the contract?
Jen, do you have a sense of that? I don't really.
I mean, it just depends on the weather, you know, so I think it can get pushed if the weather
I
stays
was
nice.
more
so.
interested in how long the approval of contract, you know, once there's an agreement, how long it takes to get something set in motion.
It just varies because they have other projects, so it's really hard. I know that they were just trying to get it done during the nice
Yeah,
weather
well, I
months,
get
so,
that.
yeah, and so
What's the biggest constraint, your staff or the roofing bidders?
I think there's probably a little bit of both, so, and I would need to check in with facilities, you know, they're under the Public Works Department. So I know that it's a great juggling act of all the different projects and
right.
So I'm just wondering if, you know, staff can follow up on those questions and provide some information. I'm not sure. It sounds like you're wanting it before you're making a decision, but you know, we could also, I mean, it's up to you. There's a motion on the table. So,
right.
I mean, staff can absolutely follow through either way, whatever the motion or the vote is.
Can the concerned group people send their questions in so it can be addressed by email?
I mean, we just can't have a public meeting over the email. So,
oh, got it.
Yeah, so it would
I'm
just.
new to this.
It would need to be like, we push information, we push information out, but there's no like back and forth discussion.
It sounds to me like if we wait till the third Wednesday of July, we're really pushing on missing the opportunity to get it done during the summer. Am I right on that?
It would make it tricky, yeah.
Do we want to?
I don't think it's impossible.
There aren't leaks in or anything yet, are there?
Yes.
Oh, they didn't say it was.
That's part of the problem, is it?
Oh, I didn't know there was a
It's
leak.
reached its life.
Yeah, it's actually some extent past its life.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get it done.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I'm not proposing this, but just as a question, did we consider standing seam metal as a replacement, since it may not be historically authentic to this structure, but it is a historically accurate method, and that is a little less dependent on weather, right? They can install that even if it's raining.
I don't think that would provide the look that we would want.
Just thought I'd throw it out there.
No,
But they do have metal shingle systems that look like shingles. They're metal.
Well, I think,
Well, the only thing I'm asking for is I would like somebody from the commission to physically see a sample of the roofing product. Say, yes, this meets our expectation. And like I said, I'd like to have somebody make sure that the engineering of the building is capable of taking the roof load.
That makes sense. Do we have people that work for the county?
No, work for the city.
I mean, for the city, I mean, not county.
Great.
Someone should be able to call Alan and answer his question, right? Can't
absolutely,
be that hard.
it's not hard.
Trying to figure out if there's a way to get
We
it
can,
to a
why don't
decision.
you, yeah, we can bring it back in July. But just delay the project, so.
I mean,
That's-
because
yeah, it's up
I
to
was
you
trying
all.
to figure out, is it possible, a couple of options. One is, I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to tie it up. Is it possible to designate a subcommittee that would then vote? Or does that get us into trouble?
I guess I'm a little hung up on technically we don't need a motion because it's not on the register. I'm looking at Aaron just to confirm.
I mean, legally speaking, no, we don't.
Technically, yeah, we don't, but we would, obviously
Well,
it's the
that's
oldest
what-
building in Lacey, so.
Right. And that's why I was trying to figure out if it would make sense perhaps to have just a subcommittee that convene. They got a chance to look at the materials, get answers to some of these questions about weight bearing, that type of thing. And then we would essentially delegate to them the yay nay on this so that you can go forward.
I don't think that you can do that with a subcommittee.
Yeah, you can definitely do an ad hoc committee, but yeah, they'd have to recommend back out.
As a parliamentarian, you can't do that. You have two choices. You vote on my motion up or down, or someone moves the table to a time certain. That's your choices.
I was just trying to figure out if there was an amendment possible.
Either way, staff is committed to following up on your questions. So, I mean, that's not anything we're trying to avoid.
No, I understand that.
If I might speak in favor of the motion tonight, if we decide that yes, polymer versus cedar, that's the big question. If we decide that tonight, which is what my motion was, polymer, not cedar, that's what's on the table, then there's a lot of work that needs to get ready. So the pull the trigger is not going to happen by us. City staff will have to say, we did the bids and it was way over our budget amount. We can't do it, or whatever they say. So there's time to get the answers for Alan and Kevin and whomever between today and the day the bids are accepted. That's going to be a 60 to 90 day process, which you asked earlier. How long is that going to be? So acting tonight on which material simply starts the clock running. It can be stopped by anybody who says, oops, this isn't going to work. Staff wise, I mean, staff could decide and say, nope, this is not going to work.
Point taken.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to make sure I have the questions down. So we want a sample. And
Alan wants a report about engineering, the weight of it and whether it will crush the building.
Yeah. And then was there anything else?
The fire safety of wood versus the material.
And that's a non-issue. Back in the 80s, they started putting fire retardant on cedar shakes. So it's been around for quite some time. And it gets a class 1 fire rating.
I think the other thing, Aaron, that I heard was that there was interest in getting some clarity about or at least specificity about the difference between the cost of the composite and the cedar.
Yeah, they can ballpark it. I understand. You have a big $60,000 shell. That doesn't mean the going bid for this month or next month is going to be that high.
Correct.
Somebody
Yeah,
should.
whatever material that we go with, we're going to generally use the lowest bid of whatever that is.
So Aaron, a lot of trees in the proximity of the house.
No.
No.
Not directly, but there is close.
Here, I'll show you a
Because
satellite.
I'll concur with
Not that far away.
I'll concur with the maintenance staff. Cedar shake roofs are a headache to maintain. Once they're on, you can't get on them because they'll break the shakes.
Had it actually been on the State Historical Commission, I might have made a different thinking about Cedar versus that, but hey, it's gone. We're past that now.
Well, now you're indicating is there any way we could have them take a look at it? Is what I'm saying.
Who, the staff?
Yeah, but I mean, if we just put this vote off and have the staff with the people that are doing the building and stuff, there's something going on here that
You would need to move to table it.
I would move to table if I get any votes. No.
John, would you accept I'm just tossing this out, would you accept a amendment to your motion that we vote, and I'm suggesting we keep the motion, but amend it to say subject to the answers that we get back to the questions we've just posed?
You can amend that motion, sure. You need a second and you need a vote to do that.
Right. And as a chair, I tend to try not to be the person who puts that out. I'm simply asking if that would be an acceptable amendment.
I would
If others were interested,
accept it as a friendly amendment if
Okay.
the seconder agrees.
I would certainly second it if I would.
I think Kimberly, you were the seconder.
Yes, that's correct.
So do you agree to a friendly amendment that we vote yes tonight, conditional on the answers received between now and our.
Sure. Sure thing.
Then I'll call the question.
Okay, so I will call the question. I agree with you. I want to ask that one first. So all in favor of that amended motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Sounds
Not
like
everyone unmuted.
That's really,
Aye.
I'm looking for it. It's neat. Thank you.
okay.
Did we get everybody?
Did we hear from Kevin and Alan?
Yep.
Okay. And Kevin, are you yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay. So it sounds like we have an approved motion.
And the recorder will have to figure the wording out.
Have fun, Sarah.
That's Sarah.
I'm very creative, don't worry.
Thank you, everybody.
For the record, I was 100% committed to fighting for a cedar shake roof until I talked to the State Historic Preservation Officer. Jen can.
That's what I was saying too.
Yeah.
And I get that as well. I talked to Aaron before the meeting about this and having owned a historic home in Olympia, I remember some of the things we had to do around everything from steps in the front of the house to the roofing materials. So, So with that, I would like to suggest just for our future note that we have at some point, we consider putting the house on the Lacey Historic Register. You know, we can do that at the next meeting. We don't need to spend time on that this evening, and that might even muck with what we're doing tonight. But I would like to suggest that we put that to a future agenda.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna put in a budget request for consultant to do that nomination. John, not to put you on the spot or anything, but you were on the council then. I don't suppose you have any recollection of ever voting on the local register.
No, because as you have pointed, I was going to ask you this question, who did we buy it from in 2002? I was present for all the mess with Michael Castro and all those machinations.
Well, all the records say that it was put on the register right after, either right before or right after the renovation,
I don't recall it.
before the city owned it.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I left the council in 99 and I just don't have a memory either way.
Okay.
I thought we actually bought it prior to 99, but you got the facts and you say we didn't buy it till 2002.
I have obsessively have the facts.
I do remember the full council going out on a bus and all of us looking at it in shambles and how awful it was and that it would have to be taken down to the studs basically and redone because there was mold, there was everything. I remember all that event because it got my attention.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember if we voted to put it on the state historical or even the local historical. I don't think so. I think my impression would have been that we'd want to see it fixed and then do it.
Yeah, there was some conversation about that, about waiting till the renovation. And then after the renovation, it was like, well, it's on the register. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I don't know why it was running on from the city in 99, but I know it came out of our budget.
Okay. Well, why don't we move on to the next agenda item? The Lacey Historical Society donations.
All right, so I am super excited to share that we got 2 donations from the Lacey Historical Society. One is for $5,000 to fund a historical marker at the Jacob Smith House, which the society had already committed to funding a couple of years ago and just hadn't quite gotten around. They were going to write it and design it and everything, but that didn't quite happen. But anyway, we got the money, so yay. It'll be a great thing to do in conjunction with putting it on the register. The second donation is for $50,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, 50000. And it's to be used for museum exhibits, programs, or archival preservation. So that's both. Those are both really exciting, and we're super grateful to the society for that. And then to go along with that, I'm not sure everyone is aware, but the Historical Society is going through a major change right now. They were pretty close to dissolving because there were no board members left, but a group of folks have come together to take over the board again, and assuming that they are voted in during the next annual meeting, the society will be able to continue, which is great. And so I had a message from the former board about the situation, and they wanted me to share this with you. They apologized. No one was able to be here to do that. So I will do it for them. From the former officers of the Lacey Historical Society. The Society's mission statement reads, to be a voice for the early citizens of Lacey and to be their stewards in protecting the historical heritage they have given us. To this end, here is what has been happening with the Lacey Historical Society. The current elected board has shrunk over time. The pandemic was part of this, but also the health and well-being of our officers. Lanny Weaver, president, has moved to Vermont to be closer to her grandchildren. May 24th, 2023 was the date of her departure. She told us at the end of last year that this was a possibility, but I don't think she knew how quickly things would move. She served on the board from 2008 and was co-president with Shirley Jajic from 2014. Our vice president and longtime member Bob Cryer stepped down for health reasons at the end of 2022. Treasurer and longtime board member Susan Goff stepped down at the end of 2022. She works for many volunteer organizations and needed to step back. Our secretary, Susan Hartman, stepped down with Lanny due to burnout and health issues. We have not had an annual meeting since 2019. With the pandemic and health concerns, our membership has continued to receive 2 newsletters a year and submit their memories of Lacey for the newsletter. The officers met socially distanced in garages and outdoors and communicated via email. Since the future of the society was in question, we waived the membership fees for 2023. In 2023, I, Tracy Rebstock, who is the person who wrote this, stepped into the role as acting treasurer, and Amber Rainey, longtime board member and former curator of the Lacey Museum, stepped in as acting vice president. The goal to find out if there was enough interest to keep the Historical Society going. We sent letters and postcards to both the membership and the newsletter recipients to see if there were any interested parties. We held meetings where we talked about the future of the society as well as discussions of dissolution. We stressed the idea that in order for the society to be successful, they needed to have a good working relationship with both the Historical Commission and the Lacey Museum. We also stressed that there be not only 4 people willing to fill the officer roles, but 8 people willing to serve as board trustees. There is power in working with a group of people for a common purpose. We also stressed the fact that the society was here to help support the Lacey Museum in any way that we can. On May 19th, we received an email from the Friends of the Lacey Historical Society stating that there were enough interested people in taking up the mantle of the Lacey Historical Society. So on May 31st, 2023, the current board, what was left of it, officially agreed to hand off the society to this group of people. The society is a volunteer organization with a 501c3 status. So there are responsibilities, bylaws, and we are confident that this group will breathe some new life into the Historical Society. That's it.
This in or not?
Yes.
You want me to report now or wait till agenda item 10?
You can wait till 10.
Yeah.
For now. But thank you. So thanks for sharing that, Erin. And we would like to do a thank you letter to the Historical Commission for their donations. That is
Historical Society, you mean?
I'm sorry, yeah, Historical Society. That is actually signed by our chair, Keo, along with myself, or along with Erin, actually. And so, yeah, so we'll have that. I think we decided to put it in the packet for next time, right, Erin? For next meeting?
I think so.
So we'll get that going. And then we can bring that and get it for signature and then get that sent off. So super appreciative to the Historical Society for their contributions. I'm very excited that they're going to continue on.
Yeah, for sure.
Shall we move on to the kiosk project?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's say we have questions. So we finally have a memo, an MOU, which is actually an interlocal agreement because it's between the city and Thurston County, and that is in your packet. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it. We did get it approved by the Parks Board at their their June 5th meeting. And that's because it's on Parks property and it's a parks enhancement. So that's why the Parks Board, this is one of those crossover projects that the Parks Board and the Historical Commission is involved with. I know Chair Keough has been on the committee, and you might have more information about it, where you're at, but we do have the MOU. It's actually going to be going before the Board of County Commissioners here shortly, and then it will go on to the City Council. Because it's an interlocal, it does need to go for City Council approval. So we were hoping to get approval from the Historical Commission as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
What's on the kiosk again?
Pardon me?
What's gonna be on the kiosk?
It's going to have, they're hoping to have 6 to 8 panels, various historic panels, the types of things that they've been talking about. I know they're definitely looking at one about the Evergreen Ballroom. They were talking about doing one on the Medicine Creek Treaty, one about the Nisqually tribe itself. They had other ones that they were looking at for, I'm trying to remember all the ones that we looked at. St.
Museum.
Martin's College was one that we talked about.
Museum.
The museum, the Lacey Museum. So those were some of the panels they were planning to put in that place. It was going to be located, originally they were going to locate it right close to the ball fields, but the problem was that the original site location that they're looking at was difficult to access easily if you set up the kiosk because of the tilt of the land right there. So they moved it down a little ways closer to the bathroom buildings off the parking lot where the picnic area is. That gave them a chance to then look at a flatter surface that would be, you wouldn't have to put steps in, you could actually make it handicap accessible, that kind of thing. So that's what they're currently looking at. The big issue was that obviously, once they start doing that kind of construction, you get into the question of cost of maintenance. And so I think that's a large part of what this agreement is intent on resolving. And it's kind of the thing that has to get figured out in order to then set in motion things like construction, that type of thing. And there's still some work I know going on with coming up with the specific wording of the panels, et cetera, but.
So it's still in the county, we haven't annexed it yet.
We have annexed it,
We
yes.
did. So what's the
Yep.
MOU?
So the MOU is because it's an agreement between the Thurston County Historical Commission and the Lacey Historical
Yes.
Commission.
Historical
And those are
Commission.
part of the city and the county, and that's why it's an ILA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought we had annexed it, so.
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
So, yeah,
So,
it's,
Been a long time worked on, and we're real excited about the project.
Yeah,
And this is a
yeah.
big thing to check off is that MOU. So we've been working really hard on that. Yeah, so we're looking for.
what's that?
I bet there's some history of that.
Oh, yeah. There's actually one of the plaques was gonna be talk about the history of the rack itself and how that comes out of some of the history of Lacey hosting sports tournaments, et cetera, so.
Including the national softball champion.
Yeah, I know.
Did they do that?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, any rate, people have any comments or questions about this proposed MOU?
Sounds good.
Hearing none, I would entertain a proposal to
Motion, Madam?
recommend we go forward with this?
Mhm. Motion for approval?
You cannot make a motion. You're the chair.
True.
What?
He's looking for a motion.
Yes. I said I would entertain one.
Entertainment.
Oh. Sorry.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Sounds like we're good.
Thank you.
Aaron, recent acquisitions.
Yeah, let me share my screen. I'm finally starting to get back to my giant backlog. So hopefully this will be the first of many. So as a reminder to our new commissioners, since it's been a while, the considerations for these decisions are right up here at the top. We consider the museum mission, our acquisitions policy, and the usefulness of the items for display and research. And I generally approve the or accept the donations, and then this is a review process for there to be checks and balances to make sure that we're in agreement about said decisions. I will sometimes bring decisions to you if they are particularly potentially controversial or political, or I'm not sure. So what we have on the docket today is John Halverson donated a poster for the first annual Lacey Spring Fun Fair. And then we have a book called On the Road with Washington State Highway Surveyor Engineer Martin Danielson, 1913 to 1929, written by his son and daughter-in-law. It documents, it includes the documentation of the paving of our section of the Pacific Highway, which was Federal Highway Act Project number 1, which was the first national money spent on state highways. And then the Public Affairs Department gave us their professional portraits that they had of council members and mayors and city managers. And then we are working on an aviation exhibit for next year. And so I purchased a book called The Story of Gladys Dawson Baroker Wingwalker, who was an instructor at St. Martin's College for the civilian pilot testing program, and was the first female instructor at St. Martin's College, which is pretty cool. And then another act that the Lacey Historical Society former board did before they left was to convert all the loans that we had at the museum into gifts. And so I'm working on tracking those down. The first one is probably the most significant. That is the Lacey Grade School bell that is on exhibit at the museum in the schoolroom, and came out of the school, and it's been on exhibit for many years, and we're really glad to have it be a permanent part of our collection. Any questions, concerns?
I'm just curious, did my portrait go for the same price as the other mayors?
Yes.
Just checking.
More even.
Yes, good call.
I doubt it. I just found it interesting that you have to purchase it.
Well, it's purchased. No, it's a purchase in that we paid for photography services and printing.
Right, the originals.
Yeah. I didn't have to buy them from Public Affairs.
So I would entertain a motion to accept these acquisitions.
I'll second it.
You have to make.
Oh, I will so move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Think you're approved there, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so moving down to item 9 on the agenda, ad hoc committee reports. I'm assuming that the policy committee is still on hiatus.
That would be correct.
Okay. So do we have any public comments?
No, we do not at this time.
John, did you want to make any further?
Yes,
Okay,
I'd like to talk about the Lacey Historical Society. There've been a number of meetings of the group. On May 31st, the outgoing board met with the incoming new officers and transferred authority for financial checkbooks and CDs and all that. And then on the following week, the board of directors convened for the first time, rather the officers did, which then required them with only one carrying on continuing trustee. Those 5 people voted to elect all the other members. So now we have a full slate of 12 board of trustees and 4 officers as of the 14th of June. We're meeting again in July to conduct more business about our objectives and what we hope to get done in this calendar year. There is I'll just say there are 77 paid members and a mailing list on the newsletter of 400. So we're trying to move into a position where we can decide, are we going to have an annual meeting? And a tentative time and place has been set for September 19th. And we'll try to capture as many people that we can to come and also to pay dues, so we become a functioning group again. We have a lot of assets, and some of the board members already have proposed some projects, oral history projects, recording. Some have proposed trying to work with the schools to have the history classes be the interviewers. That's very preliminary, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about. I have the list of who the board of trustees is, and I'll turn it into Jennifer. I don't know if you want to put it in the record or not.
I'd like to see a copy.
About the end of May, I was elected president. 4 days later, Andy appointed me to this group. So I'm actually in both organizations. But I think what we'll do is, now that we are getting more functional, I won't be the one reporting. I'll make sure that one of the other trustees becomes the regular reporter of what's going on. I'm president. Robert Southwick, who's been basically here for many years, many decades, is the vice president, probably known to a lot of people. Kendra Hensley is a new person, an experienced treasurer. She is now the treasurer. She came to the history presentation that Tracy made, and I wouldn't let her out of the room until I recruited her to the board, which she happily accepted. And John Jajek, son of Shirley, is the secretary. So those are the 4 officers. And Peggy McHugo, Nancy Miller, Monty Pasquale, Mike Smith is the carryover board member, John Turner, Paul Webb, Judy Wilson, and Margie Wiley. So that's your full board. On duty and ready to get things done. We'll be back to you with action reports next month.
great. Thank you. Any questions for John? Hearing none. Any, and Sarah, you said there's nobody else?
No, there's no one in the audience online.
Okay, so why don't we move on to reports? Aaron?
Oh, here I was thinking I was done.
Never done.
Never done. So I had 2 reports in my packet since we didn't meet last month. So we've had about 30 visitors each month at the museum. We've had some good store sales as well. We had our final history talk program in May, as we talked about. It was on the history of the Historical Society. I shared information about the tabletop programs. Let's see, what else do I want to share? We submitted our final reimbursement for the Heritage Capital Projects grant. And now that we got our no further action, I can submit our final report just in the nick of time. I already mentioned our grant that Felicia wrote. Let's see. I think that is probably the bulk of stuff that I wanted to report on.
Okay, any questions for Aaron? Hearing none, we're gonna work our way around commissioner reports. I'm just gonna go across using the screen I've got in front of me. So Kimberly, you're up first.
I have nothing to report. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alan?
I don't have anything to report. I have a complaint though. I went to get ice cream from the food truck and it was gone.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
That should be against the law.
Yeah.
They had really good ice cream there too. They actually made the cones right there. That's pretty neat.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Talahi?
The only thing I have is just letting y'all know, if you don't know, there's a Lacey Polyfest going on this Saturday from 8 to 8 p.m. You guys are available and free to come out and support. Thank you.
And that's at the rack.
At the rack, sorry, yes.
Kevin?
I don't have anything to report. Thanks.
Okay, John?
I've already given my report. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and it's my pleasure.
Ed?
I'm enjoying this very much. I'm starting to figure out what's going on, but it'll take me a while.
There's so many different things. So I'll give a extremely short report, because I've been gone a couple of weeks on vacation. So I'm continuing to work on the Lacey Leader photo project. And other than that, I haven't had a whole lot that I've been working on in particular in this area this month. So that, Jen?
Okay, I do have a couple of items. I wanted to let the board know that our city clerk is retiring. Her name is Carrie Edmonds. Some of you may know her. She's been with the city for 17 years and as city clerk for the last 6 years. So she will be missed. We were able to say goodbye to her at the last council meeting, and she's here through the end of this week. So we'll be hiring a new city clerk in the very near future. And then on the city clerk note, I wanted to let the commission know that the city public affairs department is leading a project of switching platforms for public meetings. And so there's going to be some changes with how we do the agendas. And so we're going to there'll be more information coming very soon to you all on that. So just kind of a heads up. But it's very streamlined. It's going to be very consistent across the boards. So we're super excited about that. The next thing is I wanted to let you know that the 2023 Lacey Parks Culture Recreation Comprehensive Plan, which you all helped with, made its way through the Planning Commission last night. So I'll be bringing it back to them after they review it a little bit longer on July 18th. So I'll just keep you posted. Next, it'll go to council after that. So just wanted to say thank you again for all of your contributions to that comp plan. And then a couple other quick ones. We had the Juneteenth event at the rack this past weekend, and that was a big success. Hopefully some of you were able to make it out. We do have our 3rd of July event coming up on the 3rd of July at Rainier Vista Park for anybody who's interested in that. And then there's just a lot going on with the summer concerts, movies in the parks, and other activities. So go to laceyparks.org if you want to find any of the activities going on. And I think that's all I have. So thank you.
Okay. So before we adjourn, just to want to quickly note, I would assume what everybody should have on their calendar, our next meeting will be on July 19th. So please make sure you've got that marked. And let's see. And the other thing I just want to remind people, ask people to think about is if they're interested in being on the funding stakeholder committee that Jen had brought up earlier, to please contact either me or Jen. Or Aaron, one of the three of us. So we make sure we have some representation in that regard, and I'm assuming more the merrier, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Certainly more the merrier up to all.
yeah, we just need to make sure that we don't have a quorum
Of
for the
course.
historical commission.
Of course, I got that.
I'm certainly interested and willing to serve, but I will defer to you that have been at it longer.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
A second?
Second.
Okay, got 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all this evening. Appreciate your efforts and see you in July.
Thank you.
Aye.
Bye.
Kevin and Sarah, can you stay for a moment
You didn't want me to call for division, right?
after the recording?
Oh, the-
Recorded vote.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I was
Kevin and Sarah.
watching the way.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome to.
Screen flash.
I just want to say I'm sorry and I'll tell you why later.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us.
Well, I definitely get your stuff, Terry.
Is the- oh.
You want to know who's who? Yes.
Are you able to stop the recording? or-
Yes, I can.
20